Okay. So I did activity 1 with you guys. Activity 2 is a film screen activity. If you want to do it just for funsies, knock yourself out. I know we're all going a little quarantine crazy, but it's not really necessary. Activity number 3 in chapter 9 has, one thing that activity number 3 has that I like. You have mathematical calculation table at the beginning of activity 3. This is between the pages of 248 and 249 in your textbook. I have also put this same table in the end of the lecture for chapter 9. This chapter itself doesn't have a whole lot of content, so the PowerPoint presentation is like pretty short. But what I'm getting at is I put this table in there and it's all in one place, where in your textbook it got broke up between pages. It's in one place in the PowerPoint if you want to have it to look over. Are you kidding me right now? I think Bob's having puppy dreams. So rude. Okay. Activity 3 also has, so it has that table of handy dandy mathematical calculations, different formulas all in one place, pretty nice. Then it has some really straightforward technique calculations that are all together after it. And at the end of activity 3 in chapter 9, there are word problems. I know a lot of you like to have extra word problems to work with, so definitely take a look at those if you want to. One thing though, the word problems only have one change each in the problems, and some of the stuff that you guys are going to be doing on your next exam and your next exam and your final exam are going to be these kind of activities where there's more than one change. So I wanted to run over those with you real fast. So I'm starting at activity 4. We are on page 251 of your textbook. Right before activity 4 starts, there is a sample activity that you can go along with, and it tells you step by step how to do things. One thing I want to point out to you guys is that when there's a change made in these kind of problems, you take that new MAS that you've calculated and you use it for the next thing that gets changed. You'll see here in a second, but each section or each little piece of the activity, there's multiple steps and they all build on each other. You don't go back to your original MAS every time. That defeats the purpose. You calculate a new MAS and then you take that MAS and go forward with that. And that's what we're going to practice now. So I'm going to run through activity 4 where you guys have a way to watch it, pause it, talk about it, whatever you like to do to help it stick in your brain. So I'm going to write a little bit smallish on this board because I'm trying to make it where everything for the problem will fit on here. Hopefully you guys will see it okay. So I'm going to start by writing down our initial technical factors. And the whole name of the game here is to basically maintain the exposure to the IR, have a similar exposure to the IR with the changes that are made. This thing says we're going to start with 100 MAS. We are going to have 80 kVp. We are using a 12:1 grid. I'm just going to write 12:1. And we have a 56-inch SID. I'm just going to go with 56-inch. And all this crap is changing to, ooh, that looks bad. That's going to look even worse. Like I don't have an eraser on the backside of this thing. Sorry. ADD/OCD problems. It's an exciting life I lead. Over here, it's got basically a blank for your MAS because that's what we're going to calculate. It says that we are going down to 58 kVp. We are going to go to no grid. Just write NG again, feeling lazy today. And a 40-inch SID. One thing I think that confuses people, and like I said before, you don't realize that you're building on the steps, and I think that's because this MAS is up here at the top. It makes you think like, okay, I'm going from this KVP to this KVP. Let me put that MAS in and I'm done. You're not done. Don't stop there. You'll definitely be wrong if you do that. What you're doing is you're going to say, I started with this MAS, I changed this KVP. Now I have a new MAS, and that carries over to the next thing. So what some students have told me in the past is that they like to ignore this and put their MAS at the bottom, because it makes them feel like, okay, I've done this change, now I go to the next step, now I go to the next step, then I arrive at my final answer. So if you like that, do it. If you don't like it, don't do it. It's whatever. Okay, first change. We're going to go from an 80 kVp technique to a 58 kVp technique. Now, you guys can math this. I will tell you, I know that 15% of 80 kVp is going to be 12 kVp. If we take 80 minus 12, we get 68, which is not 58. So it's more than a 15% decrease in the technique. Also, whenever I read this, I thought about Mr. Emery. When we had Mr. Emery, he told us, he called it the quick and dirty rule for figuring KVP. But from 60 to 90 KVP, roughly, range of 15% is about 10 KVP. Not exactly, obviously. You can math it and you can tell. At 60 KVP, 15% is, what's that? 9? Yeah, 9 KVP difference. Up at 80, it's 12. So it's not exact, but it's close. Close enough for government work, as they say. So if there's a difference of 22 kVp in here, I can figure out that that's two 15% decreases in my kVp. So if my kVp has been decreased 2 times, then my MAS is going to be doubled 2 times. You tracking? Remember, if you decrease by 15%, you increase your MAS. Well, if you do it again, you got to do it again. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to make a note because that math isn't really that hard to work out. So we went from 80 to 58. KVP is a minus 15% twice. So that means that we need to take this MAS and we need to double it twice. So we'll do 100 MAS times 2 will give us 200 MAS. That is 1 time. We need to do that crap twice, remember? So we're going to times it by 2 again and get 400 MAS. All right, so we have made the change from 80 to 58 kVp. Next, which I like to treat this just like a list. What do we do next? We're going to change our grid correction factor, or we're going to account for our grid correction factor. Grid correction factor for a 12 to 1 grid is 5, no grid is 1, so we know it's going to decrease. So let's math it. We got MAS 1 over MAS 2 is equal to grid correction factor 1 over grid correction factor 2. So this is now MAS 1 because we're trying to find MAS 2 from this data. So we're going to put 400 MAS over question mark is equal to 5 over 1. 5x is equal to 400 MAS. Oh Lord, that looks terrible. X is going to be 80 MAS. Yep, that's pretty god-awful looking on the screen. I was hoping it looked better on the screen than it looks in real life. Okay, so we made our change for KVP. We got we got our change for grid. We got this. Doesn't make sense. If we go from using a grid to no grid, it should be less. It is less. So we're going to go check there. Last but not least, we have our distance. Remember that whenever we're taking into account MAS and distance, that they're directly proportional by the distance squared. This is not an inverse square law situation. That would be that we changed our distance and it's going to be more intense. But for this equation, for doing MAS and distance, we're trying to figure out, okay, if we get closer and it's more intense, that means we need to decrease our technique. So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to use our MAS 1 over MAS 2 is equal to distance. Oh God, I can't ignore that one. That was terrible. Distance 1 over distance 2. Square that crap. The square matters. Our MAS 1 now is 80 MAS. MAS 2, we all know it. We're trying to find it. Distance 1 was 56 inches. Oh God, I moved my whole thing. 56 inches. Our new one is going to be 40 inches. That crap all gets squared. Oh God, that's terrible. Let's see what these numbers are. Keeping our 80 MAS over X. Squaring this crap, 56 times 56 is 3136. 40 squared is 1600. 3136 X is equal to 1600 times 80. Nope, that's not right. 1600 times 80 is a big flipping number. 128,000. Those are MASs. Divide that mess by that 3136. And our answer becomes 40.816, whatever, MAS. Oh, which I guess we would then put here, 40.8. We'll just cut it off there. That's enough. Close enough. Hopefully that is helpful and somewhat comprehensible. I know that my whiteboard is lacking, but hopefully that makes sense and you can follow along with that and be able to do the activities that follow and be able to do something like that on your next exam. If you have questions, of course, please let me know.